We're going to move on from free will and freedom, and we're going to move on to a new concept, human nature. So if we just look at the term itself or the concept itself, you have human and then you have nature. Now human you can think of pretty easily as what we would self-identify as being different from other animals. We are human, we're a certain species, we're a certain kind of living thing. Now if we look at nature, we think of the natural, kind of the organic, the naturally arising, maybe through the chaos of the world, the creation of life. Something naturally occurs. It occurs without humans making it so. It would happen if humans, rational agents, exist in the world or not, hence its nature. So if you think about it, human nature is kind of a concept that is wrapped somewhat in a contradiction, because humans are things that impose their wills on the world and create artifices of the world by themselves that is not natural. However, there is a natural part of humans that they have that is something that they didn't make themselves, but is just naturally occurring as a part of just being a human. Some political theorists like Thomas Hobbes uses the state of nature, which is humans being in a state of nature, their kind of natural setting, as ways of arguing for certain governmental organizations or frameworks. Hobbes argued that human beings in the state of nature are always at odds with one another. They're always going to try to better the other, and that's kind of just a natural thing. There's no explanation why it exists. It's just because you're human, it is part of your human nature that it is the case. And so in his book, Leviathan, he comes up with an organizational structure such that there is always one authority or sovereign which has the power and the force to will anything upon the people, so that there would always be a state of fear. He argued this would work because if human nature is always antagonistic against each other, they would always act in fear against something that is always stronger than them. So they would, I guess, obey the rules and the laws, even though their human nature would always tell them not to do so. They would obey by those laws because there's always a more powerful sovereign force that will strike them if they fall out of order. Another concept of human nature comes from Aristotle, where he says man is a political being. What makes man special, gives him his essence, his human nature in the world, is his ability to converse or engage with others through a political organization. That being able to create harmony with other beings or other human beings in the world is the special thing that makes us human, or the special characteristic that differentiates us from animals who aren't able to make these kind of agreements with others. The same argument is made for another concept of human nature, which is the rational animal, which means that we are, in our nature, rational animals. We are able to use reason to understand the world, and our power to use reason is exemplary because other animals don't have that. Thus, it is our kind of our special characteristic of ourselves, of reason, that we are able to do the things that we're able to do. Now, there's more concepts of what human nature is. Each one tries to pin down kind of what is the essential thing that makes us human, that is kind of naturally arising in us just for the fact of us being humans as we are. But I think an important concept is not that fact, but the fact that many other arguments use or assume a way of humans or human nature in order to make their argument work. For example, if you're just in the world and you all of a sudden, something happens, and you're like, oh, people are just kind of like that. What you're saying is that there's kind of a natural way that people kind of just are. You don't really have any concrete evidence to completely back that up, but it is an assumption that you can make so that it makes sense in your way of viewing the world. Thus, to say all people are like X is kind of a way for you to shelter your own worldview, such that other people don't impede on your way of seeing the world. And also in this way, it kind of blocks people out. It creates divisions where people stop communicating because they see other people as other types of people. They have certain human nature characteristics that they simply just don't mesh with. Now, Hannah Arendt wrote a book called The Human Condition, and in it, she writes explicitly about not writing about human nature because she knows that this term, which has a lot of historical baggage, assumes objectively that people are a certain way, and that's how they make their arguments work. What Hannah Arendt wants to say is that human condition is not objective, but it is conditioned on the circumstances of the world, kind of the period of time that you are put into the world, as well as what she terms the vita activa, which is three different distinct parts of what makes life life, at least in the modern world. In a next video, we'll go over those three concepts.